Hi, I'm Kendall. That's my greenhouse. It is March and I have a ton of stuff to do outside in the garden and I'm super overwhelmed. I have some garden helpers coming in 2 days to help me tackle some of these things. So I'm going to figure out what I can do before they get here to make the most of getting help. So let's go take a look around and see what things look like before my first really big spring cleanup. I have another self-watering planter to go here to put herbs in. And then I've got some garbage hanging around. This container needs to get moved. I think those 2 white containers need to get moved. And I think I'm gonna put this tree over here in this spot for now. And then I can plant these planters up. So you'll see that I was able to clean up a little bit of that garbage, and I have grown some sweet peas and brought them up from the greenhouse to get planted somewhere in the front here. I also moved some pots there, and then I spent some time arranging this area a little bit. I still don't love the white pots there. I might get rid of those. And I did move the tree pot. And then I spent many hours planting up these self-watering containers with over 150 bulbs a piece. And then I put some heuchera and some forget-me-nots in here that had overwintered for me. And I was able to divide them, and they are still alive and looking good. So I'm excited to see all the bulbs come up in those planters. These wooden planters are starting to fall apart. Need to deal with those. I have 3 planters I'm going to put on this part of the yard. I need to move this gray planter. Maybe move this black one too. And then there's some random stuff here that needs to get taken care of. Looks like I have some candy tuft starting to come up. This pot needs to get moved because it's in the way of bulbs coming up. And then there is more yucca that needs to get taken out back here. So that'll be on their list. Looks like I'm already getting buds on this hydrangea, so I could trim that. And then I wanted to plant that pot right there on the ground because there's a clematis in there growing up this trellis. And then all this weeding needs to get done in this middle section here. There's grass coming up. And then lavender needs to get cut back. They've been waiting to get this giant lavender bush back. I might do that ASAP. And then there's a couple sticks in these pots I can pull out still, and then I can go ahead and put some cool flowers in there that I've been growing. Since I was excited to cut back this lavender, that's the very first thing I did. And then I continued down the front of this bed, just trimming back some brown tops of herbaceous perennials. And here comes my deaf Frenchie Pua. And then the next day, after I did a bunch of that cleanup, I had my landscaper helpers come clean up leaves and pick up a bunch of debris. We put together these epic gardening beds, and he helped me level them and fill them. And then I brought some more starts up from the greenhouse that I'd like to scatter throughout the yard. We've already put a few in. And then back behind the house here, they took out that big pile of yucca, and we're going to continue those round step stones and have kind of a secret path back there by the house. We don't want a lot of plants back there anyways, because you don't want to plant stuff right up against your foundation if you can help it. And then I'm showing the trees are going to be blooming soon, and I brought a couple of my bulb pots up from behind the greenhouse where they were overwintering and rooting in, and they're starting to bloom. Here is a catmint you can see emerging from the ground. And then you can see the jasmine that I have my garden helpers help transplant into that spot so it can grow up the trellis. And here are some allium that I just today noticed are starting to emerge from the ground there, with a few little anemones sprouting up beside them. Here's that clematis I planted that was in a red pot last year and had looked really nice in the trellis. And then I also put right behind it there, you can see pink blooms of a pink dawn viburnum that's brand new to my yard. I clustered a few red pots together there, and I'm just showing some more bulbs. It looks like those are tete-a-tete daffodils emerging from my little bulb pots I put together. This looks like a nice clump of columbine coming up this year, and I have 3 Ito peonies emerging from the ground. This one was moved, so it's a little smaller, and the other 2 have been in those same locations. This is their 3rd year now. And then in the pots behind them, you'll see some catmint and some tiarella. And then I have bulbs coming up that have been in the ground for about 3 years now. I'm not sure what those ones are in the back, but the front there we have some muscari. I can see some other bulbs coming up, some bear's breeches there. And it looks like a 9-bark that's starting to leaf out just a little bit. And some anemones that are already starting to flush out with some green growth. I love how anemones have green growth all summer and then they shoot out their bloom stalks in the fall. Here I planted some stock that I had planted from seed, and I'm pretty sure this is a pearl yarrow, and then some cute little daffodils that are coming back from last year. I just put these round trellises, what are these called, in, and they're okay to stick in the ground, but I don't have a plant in the center of these planters yet, and I think once I get a plant in the middle, it'll be easier to get those trellises to stay in place. This one looks a lot better over here. And then I'm just showing some more of the stock that I put in, and some super cute little teeny tiny daffodils. I just love how those look. And then you can tell that we got a really big rainstorm. The ground is just sopping wet. Over here in my 3rd front pot, I just have bulbs, and I had a peony that I pulled out and had the helper guys plant in this front curb strip area. So we're just going back in time a little bit so I can show you what this part of the curb strip looked like. At the beginning of the month, you'll see some of the dieback from the catmint. Looks pretty bad here, so that needed to be cut back. But also there is new growth at the base that I'll show you really quick. And then this is a collection of asters on both sides of the walkway here. So in this next clip on the left is the catmint, and on the right are some of the asters. And I'm just zooming in on those so you can see how when I'm in person looking closely, I can see that fresh green growth coming from the base. And that's telling me that it's time to go ahead and cut these back, because if I let that get too big, it becomes hard to cut that brown matter pretty close to the ground, and I end up with a bunch of sticks sticking out of it, and I don't like how that looks. So I like to cut it back at this point right when there's that new growth. So here is what that new growth looks like, cut back. It looks nice and tidy. And my garden helpers helped me take a lot of the shotweed out of this area. That is definitely something I don't enjoy doing, even though it's pretty easy to pull. And then here is my 9-bark and rose planted close together. This is underneath a chestnut tree in the curb strip, and it's hard to grow things here, but the 9-bark seems pretty happy. There's a lot of shotweed. This is all foxglove, so that's fine. But there's a lot of shotweed that needs to come up. And then all these tops of rudbeckia can all get taken down. Now I think the birds have gotten all the seeds. Any of that little white you see in there, those are the tops of the shotweed flowers. So those need to get pulled before the flowers mature. Look how big the ceanothus got over winter. The roses could get trimmed back. I think I might actually need to take those out of their pots this year. And then these grasses need to get planted. They're in containers. All this brown matter can get taken out. There's some lavenders over here that can get trimmed back now. You can see that there's the dead part that can get trimmed off, and then the main bush down there. all this dead, this is a Maximilian sunflower that can get pulled out. The tops of sedum can get cut back. You can see there's growth at the base there. All these lavenders can get cut back. I wanted to go ahead and include this little progress video in here because this was a couple days after the garden helpers went through the first time and removed a lot of the weeds. And also I have this view from walking down the street side, which I didn't get this view currently, and so I just wanted to show you this perspective. That's a little native lupin that's coming back from last year that was planted just by scattering wildflower seeds in this area. And then we have a ceanothus. It's growing nice and big, and a cute little bird right there enjoying some worms and grubs in the yard, maybe some other bugs too. And this area is just looking so much more clean and cut back. And now we are to the present day, and I'm going to show you the peony that the garden helpers put in the ground that was in a pot last year that I had rescued from the side of the house. And then here I'm showing some irises that we just planted and some Russell lupins that I grew from seed this year. The helpers helped me put those in the ground, and we have a red flowering currant, which is a native plant for us. And then there's a second one on the other side down there. I did decide to not do anything with these roses in these white pots yet. I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to keep these pots here this year. They dry out really quickly, and so they're just kind of sitting in this state for now until I decide what to do with them. Maybe I can find somebody who wants them. You can see a lot of things cut back here. There's some columbine coming up from seed. I love columbine, and this is something called silene or bladder campion coming up, and there's the other red flowering currant, quite a bit bigger this year than it was last year. And then this looks like a very robust columbine. I'm excited to see what color that turns out to be. And then we have some penstemon and daisies in this area. And then I have two very sad boxwood balls that I loved. It gave sort of a formal feel to this area, but the neighborhood dogs, we get a lot of people walking by the house and all the dogs mark on these bushes. And so I'm going to have to find something else that's more urine tolerant here. Maybe a holly bush is what I'm thinking. If you have any ideas, please let me know in the comments. In the corner here, you can see how important these irises are for this time of year for me. That's why I put new irises in that other curb strip bed. They just add a really nice spiky foliage in the spring. And then we have some sedum greenery that's starting to come up from the ground. Those are the tall sedums. I have my lavender I cut back, and then here is a group of 5 daisies that I planted a couple years ago, really filling out nicely. And then the landscaper started the job of trimming these lavenders back for me, but I think I'm going to go back and trim them back a little bit more so they don't have a lot of woody growth at the bottom this year. And then on the corner here, I'll leave the 9 bark alone, but this catmint can get cut back. I think you want to leave the Lithidora alone too, because it has a spring flush, and then I can cut it back and it'll flush again in the fall. Look at my cute crocuses. I didn't know they were blooming. Hi guys. And then there's a bunch of sticks and weeds in here that I'm going to get help cleaning out. They can pull out all this stuff. There's leaves all the way down there that need to get cleaned up. What else? I need to get these 2 plants out of their pots here. And, ooh, this hebe looks pretty. All this foxglove can get cleaned up. I still have some pots here that need to be dealt with. This is a snowball viburnum, I think. that needs to be planted. So this corner full sun bed looks quite a bit different, cleaned up. The Lithidor is looking nice. A lot of the leaves have been cleaned out of here. There's a few bulbs starting to come up, like the muscari. Definitely leave this 9-bark. 9-bark doesn't like to be trimmed back at all, and that's starting to leave out just a little bit, which is exciting. And then also my Japanese maple here, which I love on the side of the property, is starting to leaf out as well. You can see the little leaf buds on the end of the branches, looking so pretty. And then there's a lot of things in this corner bed, including some weeds still. There's some catmint. I have quite a few different types of catmint scattered around in here. There's some irises I put in last year, so they're starting to get some size finally. There's some marjoram in here that we cut back. There's some beautiful Russell lupins that have a yellow and purple bicolor to them. They're coming back, and some white yarrow there that is staying alive nicely. Here I'm just removing an extra stick in the way of this nice purple, or actually I think this is a pink hebe that always looks good during winter and early spring when not a lot else looks very good. There is a perennial geranium coming back. And we have some, I think this is Kent's Beauty ornamental oregano there on the ground. And this pot is ready for a refresh, but I'm not quite ready to trim back that hot lip salvia yet. Here's a little side view of the front garden bed and a little peek at my purple rhododendron buds that are starting to look more and more ready to bloom, probably a few weeks before those bloom. Here we moved a little tree. We didn't have anywhere else to put it, and I'll find a spot for that another time. And then in here is where I moved the snowball viburnum. I'll show that to you in a minute. And then in this area, I have my hanging baskets from Seabrook that need to be cleaned out and moved back to the greenhouse to get refilled. And then, I have snowdrops. Hi guys. Any of this ivy needs to get taken out. Got to stay on top of that. It's not too bad here. I think I mostly need design ideas for this area. These cyclamen need to get taken to the back for the pile, and then all these asters can get cleaned up. Pumpkins, I don't really care. I can just let them rot there. There's still a few more pumpkins that need to get cleaned up, and then I have self-watering baskets that can go up there. This thing needs to get taken care of and removed. And then I think I'm going to put that other self-watering container here because this plant gets so dry right there. There's the self-watering containers lined up. So those are ready to plant. And then there's a little bit of weeding in the brick. Not too bad. There. Is that it? I think that might be it. So that's our walkthrough of the things that need to be taken care of immediately. Oh, look at the cyclamen there. I should just pop those other cyclamen in here with these. Those are really pretty. So yeah, just lots of cleanup. Especially the catmint looks really bad. Need to get that all cleaned up. And hopefully it'll look better next time you see it. I definitely think it's starting to look better, but this brick patio area is still very much a work in progress. Here are those 4 columnar apples that I moved, and the placement of the snowball viburnum finally got in the ground there. And then I moved some of these tables around just temporarily. You can still see my little pumpkin patch rotting back there. The animals seem to be eating bites out of it. And there are the self-watering window boxes I have planted with bulbs and pansies. Here you can see this contorted filbert. I just scooted it over and I put another container next to it that needs to get planted up. I'm going to walk you up so you can see these planters I just potted up. I think I will share a video with you soon about all the bulbs and the flowers that I put into those containers. I'm excited to see how many of them come up. And then coming back down the front porch stairs, you'll see underneath our big rhododendron tree here. I haven't cut back those branches at the base. I'll wait till after the rhododendron blooms before I trim those back. And then again, you can tell that it rained a lot. Our fence is soaking wet there on the left. And we just have another quick view of that little corner bed all cleaned up there. The front curb strip bed. And I'm going to walk you down, even though I didn't show you a before of this section, how this tiny little section along the sidewalk is looking. I have a lot of sedum here. I have some foxgloves and some other things that just sort of grew here. I have a few Gara plants. That's Gara there that came back from last year. Those are usually pretty late to come back for me. And then just a little peek, the front view of these epic gardening beds that we just put in there. And one last Pua cameo. You're cute. Want to be on TV? Thanks for joining me. I hope you learned something. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about plants or anything. And until my next upload, check out some more of my videos. And if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe so you can be notified when I post again. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again in the next video soon. Bye.